Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Corky Laing is best known as the drummer of the legendary bands Mountain and West Bruce and Laing, and over the years he has played, recorded, and written with the who's who of rock, apart from a 6-year period in the 90s when he worked as VP of A&R at Polygram Canada. He has been performing and making music constantly since 1965. Has received multiple gold records, several Juno Awards, and was given the Bonzo Bash Legend Award in 2014. Corky's album, The Toledo Session, was released on CD in late 2019 and re-released on vinyl in 2020. The album contains 9 new original tracks, and the excitement brought on by the new repertoire is reminiscent of the classic Mountain albums Climbing and Nantucket Sleighride. Since 2015, Corky has been touring the world celebrating the musical legacy of Mountain. Corky's latest release is entitled Finish Sessions, recorded at East Studio in Finland in April. The album features Mr. Michael Monroe and Ian Hunter as special guests. Tuija Takala, Dr. Tuija Takala, PhD, is a widely published academic author with over 70 international articles and 16 books and edited collections to her name, published by, among others, Cambridge University Press, Oxford University Press, Springer, and Routledge. Since 2012, Tuija has been working closely with Corky as his manager and partner. Please welcome Corky Laing, legendary drummer known as a longtime member of pioneering American hard rock band Mountain and West Bruce and Laing, and author, manager Tuija Takala, PhD, to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, guys.
Hello, good to see you.
Hello, Ray.
Good to see you. Yay. And they're also my lunch buddies.
Hi, Ray. Good to be here.
Yeah.
I want to go right into Finish Sessions. I listened to both albums and I was blown away, man. I said Finish Sessions by Corky Laing proves that only legendary rockers from the 60s and 70s can recapture those magical vibes that made rock music immortal. And that's true because a lot of the up and coming bands cannot capture that same feeling of the 60s and 70s like you can. And it's a great album, man. I really loved it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Very kind. Thank you.
First of all, your guitarist, is it, I'm very bad at names, especially when it comes to Norwegian names. Yesterday I had on Arjen Lucassen. Do you know him? He's a multi-instrumentalist from Holland. And all his band members, man, it was very difficult to pronounce. He had to really help me with it. But is it Harry, your guitar player? How do you pronounce it?
Well, I tell you, it's a little challenging, but it works out. I edit all the names myself because I don't want to fool myself and say the wrong thing and spell it the wrong way. But Tuija corrects me on that. But Harry's the first one, yes.
He's a multi-instrument. He plays great guitar, but he was also the engineer, also on your of playing God, right? The Perfect Child.
Yeah, and these guys are multi-talented in every way, Ray.
Yeah,
Harry is like he's just a wonderful nut bar. He's just exploding with ideas, and he's got this amazing Finnish charm, which is it's kind of subtle way of getting right to the focus of whatever you're trying to do. In other words, he cuts to the chase all the time. This is but up. So in terms of that, it emulates from what you're trying to create. And he has been a vital part of a lot of the recordings that I've done in Finland. He's like my ghost writer, but he's very shy. So when we go to give him credits, he was no. He's very, very shy about that, but we take care of it. The idea is he's really very valuable. He's a very talented, and yes, he plays guitar, he engineers, he does some singing, and he contributes a great deal to the arrangements because, the Nordic people have a whole different way of approaching, I would say, the creative music process.
Really?
It's different to me. It's a little bit more, how do you put it? It's just ornate. They like to fancify a lot of songs and put things. They want to make it charming and brighter in a lot of ways. Where
Right.
you come from the States, you get the gut thing that you're talking about the feel of certain songs. It comes from the bass drum. It really is right there. And I mean, a perfect example of that. Just take a look at ABBA. When you talk about pop music,
Exactly.
I mean, they use every trick in the book, and it works because
Mhm.
they do it properly. And I think that's the key word, is properly, to do it properly, to get the right feeling out of the songs without overdoing it. And
Does he produce as well? Does he produce
I
your
call
album?
that producing.
Okay.
Call it what you want, Ray. It's
Right.
just, it's creative, it's a process, and it's very unusual for me
Right.
because I'm out of my own over there, basically. But these
Yeah.
guys make me feel very comfortable. John is on bass,
Right.
and Maria is the vocalist,
Mhm.
and when it comes to this record, and they're very helpful. I mean, everybody sort of produces together, and the finished sessions was just a collaboration with everyone. I think they did an amazing job helping me out, and I did an amazing job on letting them help me out.
Exactly.
I accepted all the input.
It's a great album, man. I really enjoy it. It takes me back, and it's one of those albums you can listen to over and over again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. What's Tuya's creative process when it comes to recording in the studio and stuff? What does she do? What is her part?
Well, everything.
Everything? Okay.
I guess I'm more the facilitator, just
Okay.
to make sure that things run smoothly and
Yeah.
But she also puts in a few words creatively. The first song on the Toledo Sessions,
Right.
that she helped out with the lyrics. She has this little, she just checks in on certain creative parts, and are very valuable. And yeah, she's the champion. She's the champion of the record. I guess that would be the label.
Yeah.
But
Does she play? You play an instrument too, don't you? Do you play a little guitar? Or?
I can do a few chords here and there, yeah. But
he plays me.
I did play a little guitar on Playing God album. Yes, I did.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have your input on the album.
Yes.
So, yeah. Very, very cool. Your first track, Everyone's Dream, very cool guitar riff, very 70s rock feel. There's actually, I think there's a bunch of songs that you sing on this album as well. And, I think you sing on Even More, Pledge, My World, Feels Right. I think you're on those tracks. And very surprising, Corky.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know you sang so well.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you. When you started complimenting me, I didn't know it was for me or for Stooge. But yeah, I had a chance because of Playing God that years ago. I was doing the demo for the vocalist that never showed up on that one, so I ended up singing. But it was kind of thing, Ray, where there was no pressure at all. There was no ego involved.
Better
I
that
just
way.
went in, and the microphone was right there, and I had this is Playing God. So I sort of created more confidence in vocals. And Ray, you've interviewed plenty of people, and lead singing, taking over the vocals on a record is very
difficult.
It's a huge kind of responsibility. And in order to do it right, you have to really work on it. And for me, it developed over years because, when you have Jack Bruce and Leslie West singing,
Exactly.
I mean, these are I consider two of the best rock singers that ever lived. And so when you're in that sort of neighborhood, you got to step it up. So I did the best I could to do it. And I had to write songs that would fit for my voice. Like I don't have a range that some of these other singers have. So I appreciate any compliments on that front. Anything, bring it on, Ray.
Yeah, but you got a unique range. You got a very unique style to your voice. You don't hear that. So there's a lot of songs, man, that you can really nail. Totally Wrong was a good song as well. That features Michael Monroe, and of course Michael's from Hanoi Rocks. And I think Totally Wrong was one of my favorites on the album. I really like that too.
Thank you. That was that wrote itself in the limo, so to speak. It's one of those songs that, for some reason, when I sat down with Harry, just basically I started with the drums. Just to let you know, is that a lot of the stuff A lot of the stuff, a lot of the repertoire. I like to
Right.
participate. It originates with the drums. I
Yeah.
actually, and it works for me. There's no chord changes on the drums. You know that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, so it's like fun to just get on there and play my favorite beat. And coincidentally, that particular oompa beat is very popular. Well, I think it came from Poland. Oompa, oompa, oompa.
That's
That's
right.
the beat. And then you could put other things, enhance that. So I went straight for that one, double timing it, and I wasn't surprised when Michael Monroe responded similar to that, going, that's the beat. That's, everybody loves that beat. It's sort of it's a ceremony beat,
Sure.
like everybody sings along,
Yeah.
In this case, I was a confession of a kind thing. Totally wrong. Just take it, like, wake up in the morning and say, I'm sorry before you do anything,
Here's something out of left field about your voice, like on Feels Right. Okay, that song sounds like a little bit like Joe Walsh and the James Gang for some reason. And then My World is a bit between Bruce Springsteen and Joe Walsh. Your voice reminded me of those two guys.
I'll take those. I'll take that.
Is that all right?
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's exactly. Tell me when it feels right was just me talking to myself. When the lyric, I mean, Tooge really, teases me about the last verse, backseat of my Chevrolet. What the fuck is that about? And what happens in the backseat of the Chevrolet? Well, we all know what happens in the backseat. I mean, it's a very American thing,
Exactly. Sure.
And I remember Harry turned around to me when I started singing. He says, Chevrolet couldn't do a BMW? No, Harry, it's those days,
That's right. Yeah, it's got to be a muscle car of some kind.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, I love that tune. Backbone's another one. Great guitar on that one. Sounds very more mountain, as a matter of fact. And you got Maria on that.
Connie Bloom. That was Connie Bloom. That wasn't Harry on that. And that's Connie wrote the original track with Maria. And it was pretty raw. It was a pretty raw vibe. It was one of the last recordings we did on that. And I remember, I just, it was kind of, Connie turns to me, he says, listen, everything you ever knew in Mountain play it on this track, on this one track, which is exactly what I did. It was one of those things where we just put it out. And I'm glad you appreciate that, because that's pretty raw compared to the other repertoire. Yes.
I like Maria, by the way.
Yeah, she's a doll. She's terrific. Well, I may as well segue to we're doing a tour in May. We're doing what we call the Nordic tour.
Right.
We're playing Norway, we're playing Sweden, and we're looking to play some dates in Finland in May for about a week or 2 weeks. And the band that played on Finnish sessions, the band that participated, by the way, within a day or two, we did the whole record. And we actually rehearsed, but we went in and we just recorded live on the floor. Boom, I did some vocal overdubs. But basically, the band itself decided to call itself, I wanted to give it sort of a concept name, and somehow it just came out as the Bobos, because we're talking about international, languages and stuff, and all of a sudden you start with names and you go, wait a second, what are we going to call it? And in every country, people would understand the Bobos because it is what it is. And Tooge, it's Bohemian bourgeois. That's the attitude of the musicians. They're all very, very talented guys, and Maria, of course. And so that particular ensemble is going to be going on the road for the Nordic tour. And the tour would be myself and the Bobos. So essentially, if I may jumpstart to that, that's where it's going this spring.
Awesome.
Right?
Okay, yeah. I just quickly jump back on Maria, because Maria has her own band, Mount Mary.
Right.
Which just released their new album, and Corky is guest on that album.
Oh, cool.
Percussion, so you might want to check that out. It's a lot heavier than, well, it's more heavy.
Well, it's a heavy rock band. She has she's been going for a while in terms of herself. Actually, so Connie's the same way. Connie has the Electric Boys, that he played. You
Right.
know, these days, I don't have to tell you, Ray, everybody's doing everything all the time. Just like the
Everybody.
movie, you
And
know, all the time.
the other band members, you might know the Finnish metal band called
Sure.
Stratovarius. So
Oh, yeah.
John, the bass player, was one of the original members of
Oh, okay.
Stratovarius. So
Oh,
there's
wow.
things going around with.
Yeah,
I
I
would be
interviewed some of the
surprised.
guys from
Yeah.
Stradivarius.
Oh, you
Yeah,
did. There
Yeah.
you go.
I
Yeah.
did.
I'm not sure what, you know, Tooz will probably run off and do her own band. You know?
That's next.
Yeah. Well, the point is that at first you started way back, you were just committed to one project and one band. God forbid you ever left. There was
Yeah.
like a marriage that you didn't want to break up. But these
Yeah.
days, everybody's doing as much as they can out in their
Right.
own world and
You
bring
have
it
to.
to that
Yeah.
project. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
do feel like these guys are bringing some of the best of them to the
Yep.
Bobo, you know, so it's great. I gotta tell you, Ray, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
A
can
lot
imagine.
of fun. It really is. And I'm looking forward to the tour. And again, the band pretty much played those songs, so it's not
Mhm.
gonna be like pulling teeth, you know, and arrangements and all that. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. I hope you come back to the States eventually. I know how it is. Then it gets expensive and it's easier to tour overseas, you know. But it's getting
Well,
harder in Europe though.
well, it's getting harder everywhere, Ray.
Yeah,
The point is that you just gotta want to do it, you
right.
know, gotta wanna. And I haven't given that up personally at all. I never
Yeah,
stopped wanting it, you know. As long as
yeah,
you want to do it, you'll find a way. I mean,
sure.
we had this 75th birthday celebration in
Mhm.
Boca in Florida, and that was pretty amazing. I don't know how it came together. It was a sold out show.
Right.
We had the boys that, you know, helped me out over the years with mountain songs, and like you said before, one of the things I do try to do is maintain the respect for the mountain material the way it
Sure.
was originally recorded.
Yeah.
So that happened in Florida, and you know what? As a result of that show, we're getting calls to do more Florida
Good.
shows. So I suspect, as long as I still have a pulse, that I'll be hanging right back to Florida, and what would be 2024, right?
Yeah.
It's moving right along to it.
Yeah.
2020.
is.
That's what we'll be. So yeah, coming back to Florida,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
You know, it's amazing how many fans there are of Mountain, you know, with all the great rock bands from the 60s and Mountain. I mean, you can't say they were really short-lived, but they could have gone on, you know, as a unit for a long, long time. And then, of course, Felix, what happened to Felix and everything. But there's a lot of Mountain fans out there. I mean, people that put Mountain on at the top of their list, you know.
Well, I love hearing that.
Yeah,
I'd like
especially
to,
Florida. Yeah.
Well, yeah, for some reason, well, the South. I mean, as it turns out, a lot of people thought Mountain was a Southern band. We were
Right.
like, put out these records with Southern bands, you know, Leonard Skinner and
Yep.
Daniels, and Mountains in there, which is kind of
Exactly.
funny because of Mississippi Queen.
Yeah.
You know, I'll take that as a big compliment. You know, that's great if it is. I mean, I do get emails where certain bands are covering certain songs.
hmm
Yeah, great. Bring it on. You know,
Bring it on, man. The Toledo Sessions, 5 stars, man. That's you know, after listening to the Finnish sessions, I went and listened to the Toledo Sessions. I said, man, this one's even blows me away even more. I mean, it's a great album, and I think my favorite song on there is "How's the Weather."
Yeah, yeah. You know, that was there's a whole story behind that one.
Really?
Well, Kofi Baker helped
Right.
me when I was trying to put a band together that would play the mountain songs the way we recorded them.
Right.
Because during the late days with Leslie West, we would have a great time jamming on these songs,
Right.
certainly not taking any respect to making them the way they originally were played. The
Right.
arrangements went off the edge. And Warren Haynes at the time, who was a big Mountain fan,
Yep.
made that very clear to me at one night. But without getting into it, he just said, you know, Corky, you've got to get back to the way the record sounds. You know,
Right.
it's one thing to do it exactly. He says, but I didn't even, like Warren says, I didn't even recognize the song. And you know, you don't recognize Mississippi Queen there's something wrong with the arrangement you're playing.
Exactly.
And so he actually convinced me that if I'm going to carry on the repertoire, to do it that way. So I was in search of the musicians to do that. And I ran into Kofi Baker. Kofi says, I've got this guitar player who's terrific and he sings. And they were playing at the Iridium in New York. So I went down there and I heard this guy, Chris Shutters, who's he's actually a blues guitar player, really great singer. And I said, would be interested in doing some touring, playing the mountain. And he's absolutely, he'd love to do it. And he says, by the way, I have this bass player, singer in Toledo, which is where Chris Shutters is from. Long story short, I ended up in Toledo with these two brilliant musicians, really did. And they checked right in. They checked right into the mountain things. I had that wonderful, not worthy vibe with them. I walked in and I was a little bit of a semi-god to them, which was a wonderful feeling. But in that familiarity breeds contempt, and all of a sudden everybody's too familiar. Anyways, the point being is that we managed to put that record together and write it together. If you see the credits, and again, this goes back years, and these lifetimes, these little lifetimes that I'm going through. That was a wonderful lifetime. But then they started going, COVID kicked in. That's what really happened. And then with COVID came a lot of political shit. And with the political thing came the vaccine, and with the promoters saying you had to be anyway, some people just didn't want anyway. So that dissipated, which was sad. And and there's always a chance that things come back together. But right now, it's sad because that record to me is one of my favorite records. Them either. I mean, I'm very lucky to have played with these guys. I mean, it's not easy to find people that you can feel the same feeling on repertoire. So that was great. And Tuja took over at that point. Made sense of the career direction. Exactly. And that's when we came to Finland.
Well, how's the weather? There's a little bit of an Allman Brothers vibe to that. The bass playing on that was incredible too. I've really noticed the bass.
That's Mark. This guy, I can't say now. He's working with Alan Parsons now. I mean, that's the kind of playing he does. Listen, these guys are terrific. Can't say enough about them. And these guys are all looking for work, and everybody's waiting for this and waiting for that to happen. And even Mark has his own kind of show going on in what's it called in Toledo?
Bowling Green.
Bowling Green. He plays shows, so he serves a homebody. But again, he couldn't get around because he didn't want to get vaccinated. And without getting too much into that, and Chris has his own band and now he's on the road with Fleetwood Mac.
Wow.
So
other band, tribute band.
Tribute band, exactly. Well, anyway, so you get the idea if you're taking notes how things are fragmented and as they do it. I'm just trying to keep hold of it. Tuja and I are just holding on to what we have and what we can do. And the last time we really felt the muse attack and take over was in the Finnish sessions. And it just took over. All of a sudden it happened because I had no record deal. It wasn't like I was writing for we were just writing. I was living with Tuja over in Finland, and it was beautiful. And it was the COVID was there, but it wasn't as heavy over there. So we put that Finnish sessions, we put it together over there. And then these musicians came in, and we had this trumpet player come in who was great. He's from the orchestra. I don't know if you hear him in there, but the point is that we were trying a lot of different things. And Maria come in with her violin. I mean, these are the instrumental part of Finnish sessions is very diverse. It's kind of like and hence the singing would be diverse because I was trying whatever I could to make sense of the singing. For instance, we were talking. Was he talking about Everyone's Dream? But that we played in the wrong key at first. So I had to get it was one of those things I had to squeeze my testicles so hard just to get some of those notes. And I think I reached them. Otherwise, people would write me, Cork, those notes are a little sharp on that. Anyway, so after my 13 coffees this morning, but let me just say, Ray, it's I just love the compliments. It's wonderful,
Some other things on how's the weather. I heard a little progressive rock, jazz infusion. I mean, it's got it all. That song's got it all. And who's singing on that track?
That's Mark.
That is Mark, huh?
Oh, wow. Mark, he has all these voices.
Yeah.
he could sing David Bowie almost as good as Dave.
Is that right? Wow.
Well, he's heavily into the Beatles. I'm talking about the historic Beatles. So he comes up with harmonies and stuff that just tells you there's something in there very familiar. And it could be Paul McCartney hitting a third or a seventh note. And Mark is very, very musical. And he sang most of that. And then, of course, Chris did the ballad, you know, Road Goes Ever On, which we we were trying to recreate theme from an imaginary Western.
Yeah.
So what I did, oddly enough, was I went in and I played a drum track the way I would have played. In other words, it starts with, and this is a ballad, you know, so you're thinking, okay, what are we doing? And if you listen to the fills, they're huge because there's nothing else in the way. In other words, nobody got in the way of the drum fills, which usually, you know, anyways. It gets complicated, but that song is one of the songs that I'm very proud of. We didn't copy anything. We were totally inspired by the song. And when you hear it, it has the same kind of swag, you know, as the theme does. It does. Anyways, rambling on. Go ahead. Tuja's got to say something because I'm going to.
I just want to mention on Hell Yeah, who's talking on the intro on Hell Yeah?
That's Mark.
That's Mark too. He does have a lot of.
That was one of the. We recorded that on the.
Basically the way how it was recorded was Corky was recording himself at his rehearsal studio here in Long Island with his iPhone. So the drums and the Corky shouting are iPhone recording.
Really? Huh.
The instrument, everything else is put on top of that one.
Amazing.
Hence the weird sound. Well,
you never know.
It's a strange combination percussive wise, but I love that song because that brings me back to the Fugs and all the spoken word things.
That's right.
Love that, you know.
Me too.
We didn't know it. We did it. We weren't sure we were going to put it on the record, but it was so much fun, you know, to do. You know. Anyways, we picked up on the advertisement way back. They had what's his name, the Mexican actor who talks about the leather in the car.
Right.
I can't think of his name, but you know, what's the name of that leather? It's not leather.
You mean back in the 70s? Oh, the car, the Cordova?
Yeah, the Cordova. Yeah, it had that synth. It was the leather, and you pronounced it that way.
Right.
And in the song, we use that line. You come and sit in my sit. Anyway,
was that Ricardo Montalban? I think.
Yeah, that's the one. About the special It's upholstery.
The upholstery, yeah.
And so again, fun. Fun. You know, you got to have the fun in there. You know, right?
Oh, it's all about fun. It really is. Well, playing God, I got to mention again because you know how much I love that. And there's a lot of hope for the future because I just talked to Arjen Lucassen, who he's really well known for doing this rock opera called Arion. And he's got Arion Beneath the Waves, 3 days. I mean, this is a mass production. He's got 100 people in it, costs him a fortune. And he's got 3 sold out performances in September. People are coming from 64 different countries just to see this performance.
Okay. Where's the performance?
It's in let's see, I think it could be either in Sweden or Holland.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm hanging out with a lot of those guys from Holland, Sweden, Switzerland. I'm telling you, man, I got to go over there.
Ray, I don't know if you're noticing it from where you are in Florida, but the world is getting very small.
It is small. You're right about that.
As Lee Von Helm once said, but I wouldn't want to paint it.
That's a good one. But anyway, you know, why not playing God? I could see people coming from all over the world to see this show.
They did.
Yeah.
Well, Tuja was really the quarterback in that whole. She directed and produced it, and we had a couple of performances. We had what they call a workshop performance.
Right.
In Cornell. Was that Cornell or was that the one in Connecticut?
Oh, you mean the Harvard thing? Harvard did a showcase there.
That's right.
But otherwise, we did perform it at Yale University.
Yale's the one. Yeah.
Wow, that's a biggie.
And we performed it in an off-Broadway theater on Manhattan, courtesy of Cornell University.
Wow, see, that's huge.
Oh, yeah, we did that thing. That we called in. and we went for it because it was very expensive. You
Mhm.
know, the actors singing and the singers
It is
acting.
expensive.
The
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, the main point was that it's expensive. We'd love to do it again, but
Right.
it was basically me starting as a sort of a producer. I had no idea what I was doing, and I needed to raise like 20,000-30,000 just to cover the flights and the hotels, and then basically everyone was doing a favor because they
Mhm.
loved doing it. But it's still, we need to get some sort of wind beneath its sails
You need an angel.
to get it
Yeah, you need a backer.
up and running, because I can't risk losing those kinds of monies, because you hardly ever made back the money that you put in.
I
It's
know.
a production that you need to do like a regular show in one place, and then it starts paying off. But we'll keep on
not over.
trying. I mean, there's a video for the whole show from Helsinki that we're probably just gonna release on YouTube so
Mhm.
that people get an idea. We're
Mhm.
currently in some sort of a flux with the record company that
Mhm.
has the album, so it's not currently available on any of the digital platforms, which makes it even more difficult to sell, because you can't tell people go there and listen, because it's
Yeah.
nowhere to be heard. So we are working on it. I hope
Good.
that we can make it fly, because
We will. We'll make it. It's not over until it's over, and it's your kind of enthusiasm
Mhm.
that helps us get back into it. People are saying, and you're very strong in that category to say, by the way, it could
Mhm.
happen, and you get the proper angel. It's a vanity at this point. It's not a
Right.
profit thing. It's a vanity project, and there are people, even for that show that we did, it was a
Right.
sold out show. It was very successful. Then we did the show in Helsinki at the theater there. In other words, the show has been played in America and different states, and in Helsinki, and that was
and in Switzerland.
in Switzerland.
Basel was.
Yeah, Basel,
Wow.
Switzerland. Yeah, we did it. We did, as they say in French, we schlepped around the world, and we did the show with these
Yeah.
people, and hence a lot of these musicians ended up as a bobo.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
played on the finished sessions because you can't let go of these people when they're that talented.
Exactly. Yeah.
And again, like Tu just said, it was their enthusiasm. We paid it with that kind of support, because there's no money around anymore in terms of those kind of projects. You see projects on Broadway last 2 days.
That's right.
That's
right. Yeah.
And we're not producing Avatar, and even them, they're having a bit of a situation trying to raise $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's just the zeros. That's the thing, right?
It's tough, man. It really is. I'll spread the word to
you're
some of
doing
the
it. You're doing it right
influencers.
now. Yeah.
All the influencers that actually have money, I will mention it to them if they want to do a nice project,
Appreciate it.
side project. Tuya, I'm going to ask you a few questions.
All right,
Okay.
Go ahead.
You've written books as well, or just these papers?
Well, I've edited books. I've been a writer. I'm not monographs just by me, but I've written books with other people. So
Right.
books, yes.
And is it bioethics, moral philosophy? Is that your
basically my
subjects?
background is in moral and political philosophy. Then fairly soon the funding in terms of getting research projects and all that tended to be in bioethics, medical ethics, ethics of genetics.
Very interesting.
So that's the way I went. I started with political philosophy. But
right. This is the discipline of ethics dealing with moral problems arising in the practice of medicine and the pursuit of biomedical research, basically.
Yes, indeed. That's a good definition. Yeah.
Okay. And some of the top issues, I guess, abortion, surrogacy, cloning, stem cells, things like that. Is that what all about?
That's sort of partly why Playing God came about.
Right.
Rock opera, because sort of when you're doing your academic research, you end up writing papers. You spend months and months on perfecting the arguments, putting the thing out. Then it's published somewhere, even big publishers, Cambridge University Press or something. Then you realize a couple of years later, so maybe 20 of your colleagues read it somewhere.
Right.
And, there must be, I mean, you're thinking that there are important questions here that you want people to think about as well. So hence the Playing God, the idea that maybe we could combine my two loves, sort of the academic world and the rock
music,
world,
yeah.
and both music and put it out there, because music is a sort of more international language, and
Right.
you can present more complicated ideas in a frame of a show, and then maybe people, they don't have to understand everything when they watch the show, but maybe something sticks with them. They go back and think about matters that they didn't thought about before.
That's very clever. Very clever.
That was the idea. It's
Yeah.
still waiting for it to happen, to
It's
reach
amazing.
the big
Some of these
audience.
topics, you know, you got organ donation. What is kind of, I know all about cryonics, you know, that's kind of a, I actually hung out with a guy, you know, Ted Williams, the baseball player.
Right.
I sold him a bunch of stuff and we hung out for a couple hours, and that happened to him. They froze his head, you know, and they actually dropped it on the floor. I mean, it was a big mess, man, with him, between him and the family and stuff. But I know all about cryonics. But the other one, the head transplant, that's a very weird theory, isn't it? I don't see how that can be done.
They don't quite know how to do it.
But the subject's very interesting, and I can see how you can...
endless flow of controversial issues to be looked at. If you,
I think I read something online about somebody was debating you or something, and that you were kind of sticking your own foot in your mouth for something that you said or whatever. It was a very controversial piece. They were debating
was it the
you.
one that I wrote about? Yes,
Yeah.
criticizing. It was a utilitarian shot themselves in the foot or something like that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Criticizing some of the big names in the
A
field.
lot of opinions, right?
A lot of opinions with that one. Wow.
Yeah.
But, you know, I commend you for your work and everything you do. You know, to be an academic like you are is incredible. You know, both of my kids have master's degrees, are very, you know, we have a lot of teachers in our family. Of course, my wife's a nurse. So I'm the only one who didn't, I went to technical school and wanted to be a DJ, not like those guys. So I went to broadcasting school. But yeah, I love to read your work online as well. So I just want to give you a lot of kudos for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I got to talk a little bit about Mountain, Corky, because I saw Mountain back in the day, and you many times. I saw you guys, and I think I mentioned this to you before. I saw you at, I think it was during, I'm looking for my notes here about the shows in Maryland, as a matter of fact, in DC. Yeah. You played 1974. Remember that date?
Very well.
You played with, you backed up, it was Jay Giles, Mountain, and Stray Dog at the Capitol Center in Maryland. Believe it or not, I've been to hundreds and hundreds of concerts. That was the rowdiest concert I've ever been to. And
Jay Giles, yeah, I get it. Yeah. At 72. Go ahead, I'm listening.
What happened, Leslie came on and he just started wailing on the guitar, not going into a song. He just started wailing on the guitar. And the announcer was a guy named Barry Richards, who I think promoted a lot of shows as well. And people just did not like Barry Richards when he came on, and they were throwing bottles at him. And from there on, it just got ugly. But the concert was fantastic. People were so rowdy when you guys hit the stage, you know, because Jay Giles isn't really a rowdy crowd, but Mountain is.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the presentation and the promoter. You know, it has a lot to do with the kind of crowd he or she draws. But there was some rowdy. But Leslie did that quite a bit. He didn't wait for introduction.
No,
never. He just walked up, plugged in. The guy could be, off, trying to be really cool and introducing. No, Leslie would just take it over. But that was part of the spontaneity of the whole show.
Yeah.
Those days. And Felix was on that show, right?
Yeah, Felix was there. Yeah, it was the original band. Yeah,
it was. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, yep. And before that, I saw you guys at McDonough Arena in Georgetown. You played with Spooky Tooth. Spooky Tooth and the Sharks.
That in Washington?
In DC, yeah.
I got to tell you, I do remember that because
you remember that one?
That was we played in the gym.
Yeah, it was in the gym, right?
And they didn't have lighting in those days. They had a Super Trooper, which would be on the player. And I just remember walking on stage and the very actually no lighting, and you could make out in the crowd on the floor, people were poking each other. It was going on. It was like you turn around and what is that? And it would be the audience busy having a great time. I don't think they listened to the music. But I remember that in Washington. Yeah, I remember playing and of course the sound was terrible.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, it was one big echo chamber.
Yeah.
And that was before they had like Hanley sound coming in with the perfection of the balance. So the sound of Mountain in a lot of those places, forget about it. It was just awful. That's hence where I always hit the cowbell to keep the time. Otherwise, nobody would know. That was the only thing that cut, the cowbell. But yes, I do. Actually, I do remember certain shows.
That's funny. That's a good show. Spooky Tooth was great. Gary Wright was on that tour, I think.
Then we took later on, Leslie and I brought over Mick Jones from Spooky.
That's right. Yeah.
The Leslie West Band. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what is shame, okay? The secret sessions. I mean, what I understand, the record company just kind of stopped promoting it, and you guys had to finish that album on your own. What happened?
In those days, there was a lot of competition. Oh, I don't know hence the name Secret Sessions, because nobody knew about it. No promotion. It was a joke at Polygram. How do you stop HIV in the world? Give it to Polygram distribution. It'll stop anything. In other words, it went through a lot of different releases. And the thing about Secret Sessions, it was a compilation of the different sessions that I did with different people, because I didn't have a record deal per se at the time. So it worked out, and it's funny that it lasted all the way through from the 80s to the 90s, and it kept on going to different companies. King Biscuit Flower Hour.
Yeah.
And then they brought it to Floating World, and then the Voice Print in the UK. And and then we came finally down to Detroit. It came back to what's the third man records.
Well, that was the president. Rules Records was the record company.
Yeah. We worked it out, so it finally came out, and they remastered it, put a couple of tracks on it, and it was called Pompeii. And that's I don't know. I thought I gave you the vinyl. It was on Record Store Day a couple of years back where they released it. And Sony says, okay, we'll print 200 vinyls. It turned out they got an order for 1,500 vinyls. And it's the only record, Ray, that I ever got a check for. I got a check
you're kidding me.
I did, because it was a one-off, and but it became Pompeii. That's the name of the recording. I don't think it's available anymore, is it, too?
It's on YouTube, the whole album.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. And Ian Hunter, myself, Mick Ronson, and
it's unbelievable.
We had, and some of the songs are pretty good. I co-wrote with Ian, and of course Mick Ronson, and then Eric Clapton played on one of the other songs that was a pre-release, and John Sebastian was. I mean, we had some of the old school guys.
It's historic.
It is a story, and it was. We put it out. And that was it. It was like that was it. And there's a lot of stories in there, Ray, but you're going to need a couple of days, and I'm going to have more coffees. But Ray, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's almost a very unique situation when you talk about the record business and the whole thing. Here's this poor little record compilation that's went from different countries, and it finally it's getting the exposure. If it's on YouTube, God bless YouTube and Spotify, whatever.
I got to tell my listeners who's on this record. I mean, on bass and backing vocals, you got Felix Paparotti. You got Dickie Betts, who's a local hero here, of course. Right. Eric Clapton, Leslie West. You got Mick Ronson, who's one of my favorite guitar players. John Sebastian, who I've had on the show. Good guy. Yeah. You got Todd Rundgren, plays organ.
Yeah. And he also produced a lot of those tracks.
It's unbelievable. Ian Hunter plays he has vocals and keyboards. And Corky wrote a lot of the music.
Well, I co-wrote a lot of those songs we called Mick Gronson and Ian Hunter and myself had this band with Felix. That was the original sort of band. But then Ian got that call from a record company, Epic Records. They wanted to do an Ian Hunter record. Steve Popovich, you may have heard of.
Yeah.
He ran Meatloaf's label.
Right.
So he signed, they wanted to sign Ian, but they didn't want a band. So Ian had to leave at the time. And so it was a sad thing. Ian says, well, because he felt really bad because he did want his own record deal. At the time, kind of, we didn't know what Mick was doing. It was a bit fragmented. Anyway, so he went his own way. He gave me the songs. So he said, Cork, why don't you take the songs? Which I did. And they're on there. And I'm very proud of the, Ian and I were into that. And again, it came back to the fast forward to the finish sessions. I call up Ian.
Yeah.
A little bit of bottom end, and sure enough, no problem, mate. No problem. He's right there. It's nice, especially after the years go by. It's like the next day. It could be 10, 20 years. With music, it's the next day.
Exactly.
There's no time. There's no time.
Got some great songs on there. Easy Money was a fun track.
Yeah.
And that was, you and Ian wrote that.
There was a guy who sang background on Foreigner Records. His name was Scott. He's saying that he was a big singer. Stories was the name of his band. He sang the lead. He covered that song, Easy Money. What was the guy's name from Stories?
Bass player?
No, a singer.
The singer.
It was a #1 record that he sang on.
Ian something, right? Ian Lloyd.
Yeah, Scott.
Ian Lloyd? Was it Lloyd?
Ian Lloyd. Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
You get the third curtain. We win. Ian Lloyd. He recorded it out in Vancouver with Mick Rock, you know, and it was a great version. I'm very proud of it because I got a cover record. Yeah,
it's a good song.
Thank you. Yes,
it's a really good song. Silent Movie reminded me of kind of a Mata Hoople groove and kind of a Rod Stewart type feeling to it.
That I went for a free thing. Free, remember free?
Oh, free. Okay.
Simple boom. You know, the simple backbeat.
Yeah. You know, what was an interesting song was I Hate Dancing. It kind of a disco feel to
At the time, it was I was at Studio 54 for a couple of years.
Oh, really? Is that where that came from?
Down in the basement, yeah. And that's what I wrote. I fucking hate dancing, you know. And basically, it's similar to what Bruce Springsteen, you know, when he started Dancing in the Dark. Remember?
Yeah, right.
Okay, my phone is going off in my ears. Give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I have these earrings that pick it up. They're supposed to be turned off, but
all right.
So, anyways, the funny thing about that is, that's more about I hate dancing alone, and that's Bruce Springsteen had I hate dancing in the dark.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. Like you don't want to be alone when you're. If somebody reminds you how much fun they're having dancing, you're going to go. But I don't dance. I hate that. It's kind of, anyways. But it's funny you bring that up because it's one of those things where, am I ever going to do a disco song?
There you go.
Well, Mountain wasn't really a dance band, if you know what I mean.
No.
Yeah. So, but I like to think that anything I play, by the way, Ray, without patting myself on the back, you can dance to it. I like to think that any drum part. Now, what you do on top of that, you know, you want to do look at me on guitar, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I like to think that any drumming that I play, apart from it, you can dance to.
Sure. Why not?
I don't know if I'm fooling myself, you know. But
here, one of the songs surprised me on that album. I played over and over again when I was in radio. When I started my radio career in Sebring, Florida, in a small little station, of course. But Randy Van Warmer, I played that tune over and over again, just when I needed you most. It was a big hit back then. I think it was 78.
I got a quick story on that. Albert Grossman, right? We're at Bearsville, and I'm recording that record. I hate dancing. Recording literally. And Paul Butterfield came up. He says, "Cork, I got this song I'm going to record on my record. It's called what's it called? Never, Just When I Needed You Most." Just listen, and he's like in my ear. Stuck in the morning, and he's singing to me. It's sounding great. And this is Paul Butterfield. Something to say. And at the time, I'm going, "This is perfect because I need another song." And Randy was there because this is before he released it.
Right.
He was, so I recorded it with Paul on guitar, and I think he played a little bit, and it was all right. And then, but Albert Grossman says, but you, because he managed Randy Van Warmer, and he says, you can't release it as a single. I said, really? Because I did this woody version, you know, with acoustic guitars. It was kind of nice, and yeah, we really loved it. But again, it wasn't a hit the way it was a nice demo of the song.
Right.
And it's on that record. 2 years later, they go to Criteria Studios in Florida, with a couple of those hit makers, and they make it a whole different pop song. But it still had it's a great song.
It's a good song.
So that's one got away, Ray. That's one of
It ran away.
It was there. It was there, Ray.
Oh, man. On My Way to Georgia was a cool tune too. I like that one. It had kind of an Allman Brothers groove to it.
Very much so. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, and that's the one Eric and Dickie played on.
Yeah,
they both played. It was really funny.
Yeah.
And the studio, well, it was who was the hell? As soon as I try to think of it, the guy that produced the Allman Brothers is produced my record at Macon, Georgia, and because he, you know. I ran into Dickie Betts down there, and he was a big Mountain fan. I said, Dick, you have your record? He says, oh, man, I love to. The producer, I can't think of his right now, but he said, no, it's going to take forever to get a solo out of him. This guy takes days to do it. The producer saying, please. And Dickie comes in, and sure enough, simple kind of break. A couple of slide guitar things, 3 hours, 4 hours later, Dickie, no, I want to do this. And he was right about it. And John was, come on, Cork, John, producer. Anyways, but that was funny. And then Eric came and put the rhythm. Dun, 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 and I'm thinking, okay, we get at this point, you know, it's nice to get both of them on there. But you know what? I found out doesn't make any difference how or who the celebrity guest on record. The song is the song is the jewel. Sure. And I liked the song, but it wasn't necessarily a hit record. It was, like you said, it was a spin-off of sort of a road road song. But well, I'm glad you like it. It's good. It's good. You're reminding me. This goes back to pre-Civil War. You know what I mean? We're going back there.
Yeah. And then Ian Hunter actually used the Outsider on one of his records. Yeah.
I did that song. That was in the garbage can. I went to him to write. I swear to God, he has the trash man. He just writes it. He throws it. But that's not. He says, I'm a fucking rocker. I don't do ballads, you know. Anyway, so I remember I picked that and I said, Ian, he said, look at this, what a great song, nice big ballad. He says, take it, man. Go ahead. You want it, take it. And I loved it, but he finally put it on his record, you know. And he finally, one of those, same with Ships in the Night. That was another one that was in the garbage can. And Barry Manilow picked it up.
Yeah, unbelievable. Barry Manilow of all people.
I love those stories. You know, it was on the floor, man.
Oh, God.
And, so I'm sure on the way to the bank, he didn't mind being a ballad writer.
Well, if you see Ian, I've been trying to get an interview with him for a long time, and I just got message from his PR people that he's not doing interviews at this time. He just put out a new album. I don't get that.
Did it come out yet, though, right?
I think so. You know, you think he'd want to.
He's got all these celebrities on it, you know.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard it, but I didn't know it came out already. I thought it was.
It's on his website. I don't know if it's a pre-order or what's going on yet.
Well, I am going to see him, Ray, but I don't know that I'll convince him. Ian's pretty stubborn about that. If he has a way of doing things, and but I'll tell him. Because I'm going to see him. He has a studio up there in Connecticut where
does he?
Yeah, and the guy he helped me out on the finish sessions. Putting a few things together. Actually, he helped me put John Sebastian played harmonica on My World, right?
Which is not on the
album. Not on the album.
When it's going to come out as vinyl, it's going to be a bonus track there with John Sebastian on it as well.
Yeah, this summer.
Okay.
It'll be
We didn't get his part early enough to make it.
You know, John was kicking back at Woodstock. Give me a few minutes, and he was a bit late, but But when did you do John's interview?
It's been a while now. I think he released something, and it's been a while. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No. Well, because Tuja and I ran into him about a month or 2 months ago.
Okay.
After, wasn't it? Was it the fall?
Fall,
It
maybe.
was the fall. Yeah. He's doing
Yeah.
great. It's nice to see these guys doing great, and Ian is doing terrific too. You
Yeah.
know, but yeah, the PR thing. He's very. These days, everybody's very aware of
Mhm.
the performers. You know, they really run for the PR, and then they get too much. You
Yeah.
know, and that could happen. But
Yeah.
I'll talk to him. You know,
Okay.
then a bus ticket will get me on a bus. You know, we'll see
Yeah.
what-
The other guy I've been trying for a long time is Alice Cooper. I've interviewed everybody in his band but Alice, and they say he loves interviews, but for some
does,
reason we just can't connect. You know?
Do you know his PR? The person that runs his. Are we doing business recorded? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, talking
yeah.
shop here.
Yeah.
Okay. Just saying. I don't want to really talk about business about
Right.
it.
Right.
I mean, divulging information is, you know,
Yeah, don't
part of
worry.
the undergut of the rock business. There's the girl, wonderful girl who runs his radio show, and I'm
Mhm.
not sure if he still has the Sirius radio show, but she wrote a book, a heavy metal book, and she takes care of all those interviews. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I'll look for her.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, because when Tuja and our book came out, I sent her it because she had a book, and we were in touch. But maybe if she could probably turn that wheel, you
Okay.
know, and we'll see. I'd like to help
Yeah.
you out, and yeah, because he is a terrific interview. You know,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I figure that.
yeah. They're all good people out there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've done over 500 interviews. I've never had one bad one. Not
right?
one. I never got into a conflict with anybody. It's been wonderful, man.
Well,
Everybody's been fantastic.
As Tuesday I would say, knock wood. You
Knock
know,
wood, right? Yeah.
hey,
Never had a conflict. I got to mention real quick, Masters of War.
we can turn this one around. Right?
Real quick.
We can do that. Let this one go down.
I'll start debating to you on ethics.
You can try.
There's nothing like
Exactly.
ethics for a good rock interview.
Another great album you did, Masters of War, when you did all the Dylan covers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Why isn't this getting promoted more? Why didn't it get
You're hitting all
more
the
press?
soft spots. You're hitting all the soft spots, Ray, because
man.
it's all business. You know, there's things that go on still. I mean, these days, a lot of the artists have much more control over everything.
Right.
These days. Well, that's whatever. Anyways, I'm saying to you that it's who knows what it's complicated how that goes, because that's one of my favorite recording records of Mountain, because it was recorded properly. We had the songs. How could you have a bad song? And Leslie had his own way of approaching it. So I don't know what to tell you about that, because I agree with you. That's one of those records that, and people that have heard it say the same thing. They love it. You know, they love that. And I still do like a Rolling Stone. I still do like a Rolling Stone off that record on my shows, you know, because I don't need anybody else. But yeah, I'm sorry to say that didn't get the exposure. And what happened is when we recorded that, I went to the publisher, great guy. I can't remember his name, but a great guy. And I say, his name is John. So I said, John, so we did it. He says, we'd like, you know, Mr. Zimmerman to listen to him, see what he thinks, get his feedback. He said, the publisher says, no problem. I need 6 copies. I said, 6 copies? He says, yeah, Bob, when he has his family listen to it. So I said, okay, we brought him 6 copies. And I think a couple of months later, I ran into him or called him up. What do you think? And he said, well, Bob sort of said nothing. He said nothing about it. Which, by the way, I interpreted from the publisher that was a compliment, you know, because Bob was talk, you know what I mean? So I took it in a positive way. But anyway, so yes, I'm sorry about that. Masters of War and Ozzy Osbourne on it.
Ozzy, yeah.
And he sang it really well.
He did.
Verses on that beautifully. His voice was perfect for that. Yeah, because at that point, Leslie and I sort of run out, you know, usually Leslie and I would get together and write some songs, and he would, Leslie said, well, you're right about what do we got to say? I said, you know what? I said, you did Blown in the Wind, and it blew everybody away. He played it. He just did it by himself, you know, the guitar was really beautiful. And then he went into another riff on stage, which we turned out to be the rest of the song. And so that's what brought. And then we said, okay. And we had this angel come in with money.
Right.
Says, yeah, we'd love you to do a record. So we went and did the record. And we very proud because we didn't have to worry about the lyrics. We didn't have to worry about the songs. They were there. It's just a matter, how do we want to translate them? And Leslie has a way of translating that nobody else had. God bless him. Right? He didn't give a shit about what people were thinking. He would just, like you say, just do it before anybody announced them, you know.
I know.
But yeah, I'm very proud of that record.
Yeah, some great people. And you mentioned Ozzy Osbourne. You also had Warren Haynes was on that. Kenny Aronson, Barnstorm guy. You know, I love him and Joe Vitale. Yeah, Joe and me swapped books as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's a good guy too.
Well, you know, Kenny Aronson, we were the first band he ever played with, a national band.
Is that right? Really? I like Kenny. Kenny's cool.
Yeah. Very funny because we're in the hotels, you know, we're going back to the rooms.
Right.
And Kenny with the music stand and his bass in his motel room going over it. It was so cute. Leslie said, I guess he's practicing. We never practice. It's just, we made fun of him all the time. But he had a thing he did about a couple of months ago at the city winery. Went to see him. He looks great. You know, for a while there, he wasn't medically too well, Kenny.
Right.
He's terrific now. And well, you remember we saw him, Carmine at Peachy. We had, it was a get together over there. They were talking about it.
Yeah, I've had Carmine on a bunch of times. I like Carmine too. Carmine and his brother. Yeah, good guys. This song blew me away. A Man's World, the James Brown cover. Yeah. That was Leslie singing.
Amazing, isn't it?
Oh my God!
Again, amazing vocal on that, because he was doing that song in the Vagrants.
Right.
He did Otis Redding songs. He was a blues singer.
Incredible.
His band, right? Oh, great. I agree 100%. I listened to that, and we did it. And I tell you, I remember recording that track. And we just, when you listen to it, it's live, you know, he just singing and killer
blew me away.
I think it was James himself, right? It was.
I thought it was James Brown when I first heard it.
Him, yeah.
Yeah. I want to mention something else you did. You worked with Men Without Hats.
Right, yeah.
And I'm figuring probably because they're from Montreal as well. But you were the drummer on I Am the Walrus, and they did a pretty good version of that tune, didn't they? You don't remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You noticed my stance.
You were on that track.
I was there.
You were there.
Well, at the time, I was working. I had an amazing job. I was vice president of A&R for Polygram Canada.
Right.
I was finally a record company weasel. I was on the other side. So I was their A&R, and I helped produce the record. And these guys, they're crazy. They were crazy, but yeah, it's just funny. It's because people were envious. They had that huge hit, dance record,
Safety Dance. Yeah.
Safety Dance. Yeah. And that was like #1 worldwide. So I go to the record company, and the record company president says, listen, we want to get these guys into the AOR, you know, into the rock format. And I said, and I remember, because I was the A&R guy, I said, just throw some guitars in their hands, because it's all keyboards, right? It's all like that fancy. That was the 80s, all keyboards. And I said, then we did that, and it didn't quite work. But the point is what was the point? Yes, they're from Montreal, and but they were huge rock stars because of that. But they didn't have a rock band. You know what I mean? I think they're out on the road right now as we speak.
Yeah.
You know,
I think you're right.
Yeah. And listen, Ray, that was a real gift, being an A&R guy, getting paid to do whatever you always wanted to do anyways, listen to songs and record and stuff. So that was something. And at the time I had this band Boot Sauce, which was just great. They were the Canadian Chili Peppers. Right. I think they were almost as good. Anyways, but that was another lifetime, right?
Yeah. You were on the Sideways album.
That's right.
Yeah. I always wanted to be an A&R guy. That would have been one of my.
I think you are one. You just have. When you're on the phone doing interviews and putting together, right? It's pretty darn close, you know.
Yeah. You know who was an A&R guy? Mark Lindsay. Remember Paul Rear and the Raiders? He was instrumental in bringing in Baker Street on the radio.
Oh, I'm not.
It was Mark Lindsay that did that.
Did not know. One of my favorite records, Baker
Yeah,
Street.
he's a good guy too. Yeah. All right, I've asked you this question before. I got to ask it again.
Oh, here it comes. You ready? Is this for me or to you?
Actually, both of you. You can both answer this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you had a Field of Dreams
Hold
wish
on,
like the movie.
Phone.
Okay. Get the phone. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What happens is no matter what, this phone goes off in my ears.
Oh man.
There we go. It's all right. Yeah, it's all right. No, it's gone. Still on.
Are you sure it's not tinnitus?
Yeah, hold on. I could just have to pull them out, but then I won't hear you. These are special $80,000 head.
Nice.
You had it. There you go. Thank you. Okay, come on back to it.
All right.
Just throw the phone.
Maybe he's an angel investor for.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
for the rock opera.
Find out. He can leave a message, or she can leave a message.
Okay. All right. So, if you had a Field of Dreams wish like the movie to perform with, collaborate with, anyone from the past or present, who would that be? And that's for both of you.
For you.
Oh, yeah.
Elvis Presley.
Elvis, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love the way the drummer at the time, I can't think of his name right now, but when he was doing all his moves, all his
the JD.
Yeah, it's JD something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I envied him because when Elvis he's a very drum oriented singer. In the movie. He does it. He goes over to the drummer and they go to hit. Remember, he sort of tells the drummer what to do in the movie.
Right.
But I always loved his moves, and to punctuate the moves that he had would have been a lot of fun. You know, he had punches. What do they call that art? Martial arts.
Martial arts. Yeah.
On stage.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's funny because I loved Elvis, but I didn't love him as much as a lot of people love him.
Right.
But I loved performance-wise, he's very dramatic on stage. I mean, that's the first person. There's a lot of people who could come up, but Ray, I'm going to say it again. The four-letter word in this business is luck. I was very lucky to play with pretty much anybody I wanted to play with. You know, again, you just have to be at the right place, right time, and hopefully have the right chops. You know.
Did you do something with John Lennon on an album or?
Yeah, well, it was something I sang background with a bunch of other people on Do You Want to Dance and Do You Want to Dance? And what was the other one? He did it on his rock and roll album. Okay. That was Bay Pang took us in. Alice Cooper was there.
Okay.
The record plant. He called in. Yeah, she brought in a lot of people to do the chorus part. Do You Want to Dance? And the other one, Stand By Me.
Stand By Me.
Okay. On there. Yeah, that was the album he gave. Remember, he had to give away one. He had to do one. That was the album. And when I say play with him, like one of 5 or 6 people in the audience screaming, but it was a great time.
Yeah. Do you?
Go ahead.
I mean, it could be a great philosopher, you know. I mean,
no, has to be Janis Joplin.
Janis Joplin, good. Yeah.
Because her range and her way to project songs, and just to be anywhere near her on stage would be a dream.
Yeah, she was incredible. I've had a lot of the guys from the band, her band on. Yeah. Talking about Janis.
The keyboard player, I think he passed away.
I had the guitar player.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because in the film, I'm going to cut in here for a change. In the film of Playing God, Tooge is playing. She's dancing with the other members on this finale, and she's dancing and she's like she looks just like Janis.
Really?
Yeah, remember she got these hippie clothes on and her hair, and she's having the great time of her life. She lit up. She just lit up like a huge candle, and she was doing the Janis. She was dancing and stuff and singing along with the rest of them.
Awesome.
That was the first thing that came. I didn't even know she liked Janis.
Yeah.
That's a good-looking Janis Joplin. To put it that way.
Big brother in the holding company. I had those guys on. Yeah, it's a good story too, of what happened. You know, they were actually a good band. They didn't get enough credit, but they were a pretty good band. Yeah.
And the drummer had the baby with Meatloaf's ex-wife.
Wow.
And the baby's called Pearl. She was one of the babies that had gave birth at Woodstock. Was Pearl. And the drummer
Mm-hmm.
of her band was the father of Pearl,
Okay.
who is now is married to the lead singer
Mm.
Anthrax.
of Anthrax. It
Mm.
goes on, right? We can go on forever on these things.
Yeah.
The rock and roll industry has blossomed, as you know. It's going into outer space, but it's blossomed with a lot of generations of musicians that are coming from generations of musicians.
They're all connected.
Everything's connected, and it's good. And I think you're looking better. Well, that's because once a lot we had dinner, we had lunch,
Right.
but before that, we hooked up when we played Largo, right? We played down there.
Well, we met in Venice.
Yeah, it looked like you lost weight. You got your sunglasses.
I did. I lost weight.
See, I'm not trying to compliment. I'm not blowing smoke up your bum. I just think as things go on, as the road goes ever on, you know.
You got to take care of yourself. You guys look great.
You
look like you're in your 30s.
Yeah, it was 19.
And Tuya, 19.
Oh, it's coming on. Bring it on.
I got to mention, man, I just interviewed this guy. I was very proud. I mean, William Bell, soul singer, he wrote Born Under a Bad Sign. I mean, how legendary is that?
Is this an Irish guy?
No, he's an R&B soul singer. He's in his 80s now.
Okay.
But you know, I just recently interviewed the guy. I mean, he
wrote Born Under
a Bad Sign. I mean, that's
great. No, that's amazing. But that's it. He was he wasn't a youngin, I guess.
No, yeah. But his best friend was Otis Redding.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, they were very, very close. So we talked about Otis.
I met when I was in Macon, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I met Otis Redding's son.
Oh, his son, really?
Yeah, it was just stuff like that.
I know.
There's a lot of comes up and says, "You remember my dad?" Of course, I remember his dad. You know.
Yeah.
That's when, of course, what's his name was running Macon, Georgia, and that Southern label.
Right. Capricorn.
Yeah, Capricorn Records. Yeah. Phil Walden.
Phil Walden, right? Phil Walden.
Wow, hey, had a brain fart.
There you go. That was a good one. You remembered.
They're still coming. You're squeezing me on this one, Ray. I got you. I'm telling you.
You got a quick Jimi Hendrix story?
Wow. Well, it's in the book. You know the book. Letters to Sarah.
Sharon loves the book, by the way.
Oh, that's good.
Ever since she got it from you, she started reading it.
Good. Well,
I think she's finished now.
There's this Jimi Hendrix story, but they're true stories. It's just when we were in Montreal as a local band, we would open for the international bands that would come in during the British invasion, and Jimi Hendrix was part of that invasion, already, etc. And he came to Montreal, and he wasn't a superhero yet. This was the mid '60s, just when he was starting to break, and we played with him at the Forum, the Montreal Forum. We opened up, and after the show, these guys were taking all kinds of pills, keeping them up, because they were coming to America for the first time, for the first tour, you know, and it was amazing. And well, after the show, we hung out with them. I went to we had a rehearsal place, and we played. And a bass player in my band played and jammed with them. That was his, he loved it. After this jam session at 2 a.m, we went to check into the Queen Elizabeth Hotel. And I went with him, and he was talking about the Axis Bold as Love in the car. What's the next thing? And he was recording it. And I went, and he tried to tell me about what the Axis really is, which I'll leave it. I don't want to be a spoiler here. Okay. You have to go to the book. But then we go to check in, and of course, these French aloof guys at the desk say, we have no rooms. Well, of course, he was booked, but they looked, Jimi Hendrix walks in looking like a well-dressed peacock. He looked great, right? And I'm saying, look, I knew there was shit going on. I said, Jim, this is not right, because he was doing the racist thing right there. Sorry, we don't have no rooms. And Jimmy looked at me. He said, Corey, look at me. Would you take me home to your mother? In other words, I know what he's talking about. He doesn't want me in that place. Yeah,
right.
Very humble, very humble. Anyways, we did check into another hotel. It was fine. And we had a few run-ins, and those were the days. I mean, Jimi Hendrix was a big fan of Leslie's. They played a couple of times together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got that magic powder story. Should I tell that? Is that all right? We were playing the Fillmore quickly. Playing the Fillmore. Big show in 1969. It was our first show. And a lot of people were curious about Mount. We're getting a big rep. And we go there and we found out that a couple of people were there. One of the people was Bob Dylan apparently there. And so was Jimi Hendrix hanging out. My mother happened to be there too, sitting in the middle. Point being, after the show, big show, all the PR people, big party at the Fillmore backstage. So I had to change because I was all soaking wet. And I said to Felix, I'll be upstairs. So I go up to the third floor, dark, nobody's around. I look over in the corner, Ray, and I see this figure in the shadows with sort of a Zorro hat. I look over and I went, that's weird. So I was changing and this figure comes over to me, and of course it's James Marshall Hendricks. And I look at him, he says, hey man, I'm so sorry, this is your space, man. I'm changing. I said, no problem. And he's taking out a little vial, and I've got some magic dust. And he said, would you participate? I went, well, Jimi Hendrix, whatever he has, I'll take part of it. Anyways, it was my first hit of whatever it was, you know. And I think he says, listen, you know, show was really, and this is my run-in with him one-on-one, but I don't know if he would remember it because it was just part of that whole thing, you know, the Fillmore and that whole thing. But that was quite something. That was a very private moment. And I'd like to say, you know, they're definitely a magical moment, if I may be so corny. You know, that would be, everybody was around in those days, you know, people were just hanging. It was big thing about that. And I lived in the village, so there was people ran into Jack Bruce before I played with him. Village Vanguard, having a drink. And there was a couple of years there where just everything was really cool. It was very I
had a great interview with Jack.
You did good.
Yeah, the same year he passed away, because he released an album. It's a good album too. One of the last albums
in Florida, or was he at home?
At home. We talked. We did a phone interview. That's before Zoom. But he was so funny. He's a funny guy. Yeah, good guy.
He's a real character. Just wonderful.
Yeah, he's I believe he's in my book too. Yeah.
Well,
what was I going to say?
Your book, by the way, a lot of. I was looking. I said, "There's evidence in here. These are stories."
Well, you're going to be in series 2.
Okay. I'd love to be in series 2.
I'm like you. I got to raise some money so I can get it published. So
you got angels. We got to find these angels.
It's not cheap, man. Especially getting all the permissions for the pictures. That's the hard part.
Can I tell you something? Hey, little secret here.
Use
the pictures. If they're making any money, God bless you. You'll pay them a few bucks at that point. It costs a lot of time and energy to find those people.
It does.
You know, let them find you. I mean, remember when we did the book, Tuja says, "No, you can't print these. We don't know who this." Most of them are dead. You know,
that's true. That's true.
But the point is that don't waste your time on pictures. You know, if you make money, God bless you.
Yeah.
And like John Eastman, my lawyer said, you can always negotiate success.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. You know, I just want to mention Mark Farner, what he said about Hendrix. I'm not sure if Mark did a lot of drugs back in the day, but when he got whatever he got from Jimi Hendrix, it totally blew him away. He said he's never had anything like that before in his life.
That's sort of the same. It was magic dust.
I guess it was.
You don't want to get sued. I don't need to spend time in the cell. But the point, it's magic. Anything to do with him is just, you know.
That's some good shit.
By the way, I happen to know from what I remember, he never took drugs, Mark. He was an all natural Indian. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, if anything, he wouldn't go near the same dressing room, you know. I mean, that I remember, you know, that back there, because we did a lot of gigs with
with Grand Funk.
Yeah. No, drugs were with drugs and fine. Whatever. Hey, if you live through it, you can talk about it.
I lived through it. Any final words here? Anything that I missed?
Well, I remember the quote. What's his name? I'll never forget that guy. What's his name? He said, "Allow for shrinkage."
Allow for
just in general. Overall, the whole world, just allow, because I just
Allow for shrinkage.
I'll
I
leave
like
it with
that.
that. You have one too?
No.
No, two doesn't have one.
No.
Yeah.
Tui, I want to say thank you for arranging this interview. She's
welcome,
very
Ray.
on the ball, by the way. She's good.
Totally.
She's very, very good.
I
Yeah.
can't say enough about it because it'll cost me.
Yeah, exactly.
I love her dearly. That's a
She's
fact.
awesome. You guys are a perfect couple. You really are.
Thank you
You
so
really
much.
complement each other very, very, very well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're not doing a threesome, so leave it there. Okay?
Hey, we already met, so.
I never said that. Anyway, send our best to Sharon.
I will. I sure
we'll
will.
talk again. We're going to talk again.
Oh,
Let us know
definitely.
what's going on with this thing when you put it on, so we have.
Yeah. No, I'll send it to you right away as soon as I publish it. Okay.
All right.
You
All
will.
All right, guys. Thank you for
Love
being
you
on the
guys.
show. I appreciate it.
Very much.
Pleasure being here. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.